Hey guys, Sean here, and today we're going to be turning this material into a motorcycle work stand. Check it out. So I'm going to be doing a little voiceover to walk you through some of the steps that Dan and I took to get this thing together. The total width of this box is going to be 2 feet, so it's 24 inches, and the cross braces need to fit in between the sideboards for a total width of 24 inches, so they're going to be 21 inches. Each sideboard measures 1.5 inches. It's 2x6. It's constructed out of, I think it's 22 30-seconds plywood for the top and bottom, and then 2 box sections made out of 2x6s, supported by 4x4 posts. Also, it's important to note that you should measure and then cut each piece one at a time from the same end of the board. That way your pieces don't end up too different in length. And let it be known, I'm not an expert craftsman. I really had to research a few designs to decide what was going to work best for me and take all the necessary steps to make sure I was going to build it right this time. I built things before that didn't end up exactly how I wanted them, so I wanted to make sure that this one was going to turn out to be exactly what I had planned in my mind. And here's a perfect example. I measured the braces to be spaced every 24 inches, which would require 5 of them, and I only had 4, so we had to go back and remark them for 36 inches, which would space them evenly front to back. So at this point we're ready to screw everything together, so I hold the 2 sides together with 2 large clamps that I picked up at Harbor Freight, and just to hold everything in place. And then I ran 3 screws on each side into each board. Now for the bottom, it's pretty much exactly the same steps as the top. I'm just throwing in this extra footage to show you guys what I meant by cutting each piece individually. So I measure again, and then I cut. That way they all end up the same. So the camera died before we got to the point of full assembly, but this is what we ended up with. The only thing that I didn't plan on earlier was adding the middle supports, and when we got it together I realized that it could probably use something in the middle here. So I added 2x4s just so that it wouldn't sag over time in this middle section, because it is going to be holding, you know, between 300 and 400 pounds pretty regularly. The 4x4 posts on the corners we just
secured them in with screws right here. You can see 4 screws per corner. The 2 box sections came together, making the total around, I'd say it's around 2 feet tall. And I use a ramp that I built before to load the bike up. The only part that I have left to do is to add the front chock, which is right here. I had this on my trailer, but since I have the truck, I got rid of that. I just drew a center line in the chock and a center line on the table so that I know that they will be centered. And then I have these tracks. The chock will slide in and out of these tracks, and you just tighten it down with these thumb screws basically. And then the casters are going to go on the bottom, so the whole thing is relatively mobile. I can push it up against the wall and, you know, maybe even leave a bike on it. It'd be extra storage, and that was the whole point of putting a bottom section on it, so I have these little storage bins underneath for, you know, if you're changing exhausts or something like that. I don't know, you know, it could be something cool and a place to keep all your extra shit. So it's 2 days later now, and basically all I have left to do is fasten the casters so that I can roll this thing around and push it against the wall when I need the space. And it's take 2 on the hardware aspect. The first time I got screws, self-tappers that were too short, and what I was really looking for was something with a shoulder and a hex. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to have to pilot drill these with a 9/64 drill bit so that it doesn't split the wood out when I get closer to the edge on the corners. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I'm using, and then we'll go from there. So here I'm just going to mark my holes. I already have one from where I pilot drilled, but the hardware is bigger, so I'll still have to go a little bit deeper with that one. Just going to mark these out so I know where to drill. Take the caster. Here I'm using washers on the hex screws because in my experience, washers are always better than no washers. Alright, so here we have it. The casters are on, and now this thing can be rolled out of the way pretty easily. Garage floor is a bit uneven, but shouldn't be a problem. Now all I have to do is secure the chock. I think it's going to be pretty cut and dried. Just going to secure the rails that the chock slides into, and then I'm going to drill some holes to put pins so that it doesn't back itself out when you're putting a light up on it. That's about it.